Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Today we're going to be looking at something that really, I think, affects all of us.
It does.
Behind the scenes of how businesses predict what we want and get it to us. How they get it to us.
It's pretty fascinating stuff.
It is. So whether you're, really into business or you like tech or you're just curious about how the world works, this one's for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to be looking at a source today called Predicción de demanda y optimización logística.
Wow.
Which translates to demand prediction and logistics optimization.
Okay.
For us English speakers.
I like it.
So
yeah.
Have you ever wondered how Amazon just seems to always have what you need before you even know you need it?
Right.
That's kind of what we're unpacking today.
For sure. I mean, it's really a hidden network that keeps everything running so smoothly.
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's start with demand prediction. What is that? What's the big deal?
Well, imagine a business having a crystal ball that shows them what people are going to be buying.
Okay.
That's essentially what demand prediction is.
Right.
Using data to try to anticipate future purchases. And the real value comes in what this allows companies to do.
Okay.
Right. So by being able to accurately predict the demand, they can avoid overstocking items that might not sell, or even worse, running out of the things that people really want.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. When you go to the store and they're just sold out of the one thing that you really needed.
You're like, how did you not know?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just about preventing customer disappointment, right? This has huge implications for industries.
Yeah.
Like retail, manufacturing, food, especially food where reducing waste is so critical.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So how do they predict what people will buy?
Right.
And how does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, because our source mentions kind of a timeline of ways that they've done this from basic math to, crazy AI.
Yeah, well, so for a long time,
Yeah.
businesses had to rely on methods like moving averages, exponential smoothing, and linear regression. And basically, they just used past sales data to try to project future trends.
But those have their limitations, right? I mean, like a cell phone from, 10 years ago.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're clunky, they're limited.
Yeah.
And especially in today's world, we have mountains of data and factors that are constantly changing.
Right.
And these older methods just can't keep up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so that's where artificial intelligence and big data.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the cutting edge methods?
Sure.
What are they using?
Yeah.
And how do they work?
Well, you've got things like ARIMA and SARIMA,
Okay.
which were particularly useful for data that has some seasonality to it. Like if there are peaks during certain months or holidays, imagine a retailer trying to predict sales for Black Friday.
Oh.
Knowing how sales fluctuated during past Black Fridays is crucial.
That's why I can never find anything on Black Friday.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about these artificial neural networks?
Oh yeah, those are incredible.
Tweets sound cool.
They are.
Yeah.
They're designed to mimic the way our brains learn from data.
Okay.
Right, allowing them to pick up on subtle patterns.
Wow.
And make really accurate predictions.
Okay.
And the real magic comes from combining this computing power with data that goes beyond just past sales.
Okay.
So think about incorporating things like weather patterns, economic trends, even what's trending on social media.
Wow.
All of this adds valuable context to the predictions.
It's like they're building this incredibly detailed picture of what makes us tick and what makes us buy things.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But okay, so that's just predicting the demand.
Right. Yeah.
But then you have to get it to us.
Right.
So that brings us to
logistics optimization.
Okay.
The art of getting stuff where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Smoothly, quickly, and affordably.
Without breaking the bank.
Without breaking the bank.
Yeah.
Right. And this is something that directly impacts you, the listener. Think about it. This is what determines how fast your deliveries arrive, how much those deliveries cost,
Okay.
and even the environmental impact of all that shipping.
So what are the key strategies? Because our source mentions a few.
Yeah.
But it sounds complicated.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think we can break it down into three main areas.
Okay.
Route optimization, inventory management, and designing efficient logistics networks.
Okay. So route optimization is
Yeah. Think of it like GPS on steroids.
Okay.
Right. Instead of just getting you from point A to point B, it's about figuring out the most efficient routes for deliveries. taking into account things like traffic patterns, fuel efficiency, even delivery time windows.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It's like serious algorithms, I imagine.
It is. And that's where technology comes in.
Okay.
And we're not just talking about spreadsheets anymore.
Okay.
Companies are using things like transportation management systems, or TMS, which is software designed to plan, execute, and track every aspect of transportation operations.
Okay.
And then you have the Internet of Things, or IoT, which is basically a network of sensors and devices that can track everything in real time.
So they could see where everything is.
Everything, yeah. From truck locations to the temperature of perishable goods.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And I'm starting to see how demand prediction and logistics optimization kind of go together.
They do. They absolutely do.
Because if you know what people are going to want and where they're going to want it, you can plan those routes. You can plan where you're going to store stuff.
Totally. It's all about creating a seamless flow of information and goods throughout the entire supply chain.
Okay.
And this is where things get particularly interesting. Our source mentions blockchain.
Oh, blockchain.
Which we often associate with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
But it's actually playing a huge role in making supply chains more transparent and reliable.
Okay, how so? How does it?
Imagine being able to track a product's journey from the factory to your doorstep, like a digital breadcrumb trail.
Okay.
That's what blockchain allows you to do by creating this immutable record of every step in the process.
No.
It becomes much harder for counterfeit goods to slip through the cracks.
Oh, okay.
It also helps with things like ethical sourcing, allowing you to verify where materials came from and how workers were treated along the way.
That's a really interesting point. So it's about more than just getting it there quickly. It's about
It's about building trust.
Yeah, and responsibility.
And responsibility into the system.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I think it's a really powerful technology that has a lot of potential.
But I feel like we've just scratched the surface here.
We have. We've talked about demand prediction and logistics optimization as these separate pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But the real magic happens when they come together.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, that's what we'll be exploring next.
All right, let's dive in. All right, so we've talked about demand prediction and logistics optimization kind of in isolation.
Right.
But I'm really curious to see how they kind of come together and what happens when you do that.
You get a really fine-tuned machine capable of moving products with incredible speed and precision.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Accurate demand predictions are the fuel that powers efficient logistics.
Right, so fuel.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Knowing what people will want and where they'll want it allows companies to make smarter decisions across the entire supply chain.
So let's get specific. How do those predictions impact things like inventory, transportation, and even managing workers?
Okay, let's start with inventory. Imagine you're running a grocery store.
Okay.
And your demand prediction model tells you there's going to be a heat wave next week.
Okay.
What do?
Well, I'd probably stock up on ice cream, cold drinks, maybe even sunscreen.
Exactly.
You know, things that people are going to need to beat the heat.
Exactly. And by anticipating that surge in demand, you can avoid running out of those essential items.
Okay.
Keeping your customers happy and your profits up.
That makes sense.
Right.
And then I guess on a larger scale, that kind of accurate inventory management can help reduce food waste.
For sure.
Which is a huge problem.
Huge problem.
Yeah.
Globally.
Okay, so it's not just about making money, it's about making responsible choices too.
Totally.
What about transportation? How do predictions play a role there?
Well, instead of simply reacting to orders as they come in, companies can use demand predictions to plan delivery routes in advance.
Okay.
So they can optimize the loading of trucks, they can choose the most fuel-efficient routes,
okay,
and maybe even use different types of transportation depending on the needs of each route.
So if you're delivering something to a remote area...
Right. If you're delivering something time-sensitive to a remote area,
okay,
maybe drone delivery makes more sense than a traditional truck.
That makes sense. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot to think about for something as simple as getting a package delivered.
It is. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. What about managing workers? How does that fit into this?
Well, think about those peak seasons that retailers experience.
Like Black Friday, holidays.
Black Friday, the holidays, exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of being caught off guard by a sudden influx of orders, companies can use demand predictions to anticipate those spikes and schedule their workforce accordingly.
Okay.
So they make sure they have enough people to handle that increased workload. Without having unnecessary staff on hand, during slower periods.
That's smart. Benefits everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any companies that you think are doing this really well? Our source mentioned Zara.
Oh, Zara's a great example.
I feel like they always have exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, they've mastered this art of combining demand prediction with a super agile supply chain.
How do they do that?
Well, they use really sophisticated models to track sales trends,
Okay.
analyze customer preferences, even monitor social media to see what styles are gaining traction.
Wow. So they're like anticipating trends.
Yeah, almost before they fully emerge.
That's crazy.
It is.
How do they get clothes into store so quickly?
That's the magic of their supply chain. They have a highly localized production process.
Okay.
With many of their factories located close to their major markets. This allows them to replenish popular items so quickly.
Okay.
Sometimes even multiple times a week.
That's amazing. But looking beyond Zara, what about the future of all this? Like, what are some of the trends, you think?
Yeah, there's some
that are really going to change how all this works.
Yeah. Well, one of the most exciting developments, I think, is the concept of digital twins.
Digital twins? That sounds like sci-fi.
It does.
Like, I'm picturing me running around a virtual warehouse.
It's not quite that dramatic.
Okay.
But it is pretty revolutionary.
Okay.
A digital twin is essentially a virtual replica of a real-world process or system.
Okay.
So in the context of supply chains,
okay.
This means you could create a digital twin of your entire operation.
Oh, wow.
From your factories to your warehouses to your delivery trucks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you can run simulations and kind of see how things would work.
You can test out different scenarios.
Okay.
You can optimize your strategies without any real-world consequences.
That's a game changer.
It is.
Yeah. I'm thinking even about, like, if companies had that during COVID.
Totally.
And they could have seen how that was going to disrupt their supply chains.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe make changes.
Yeah, they could have adapted more quickly.
Yeah.
And minimized those disruptions.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Okay, so digital twins.
Yeah.
What else is on the horizon?
Another area that's getting a lot of attention, and for good reason, is explainable AI. As AI becomes more and more prevalent in demand prediction and logistics, it's really essential that we understand how those algorithms are making decisions.
Especially because those decisions are impacting, like, where stuff comes from,
Totally.
how much it costs, how quickly it gets here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got to be able to trust it.
We need to be able to trust those algorithms, and that means transparency.
Okay.
And explainable AI is about making those black box algorithms more understandable.
Okay.
So we can see the reasoning behind their decisions and make sure that they're being used ethically and responsibly.
It's not enough to just have AI.
Right.
You got to understand it.
We have to understand it.
Yeah. But with all this talk about AI and simulations, it feels like we're kind of getting further away from the human element of all of this.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's something we definitely need to be mindful of. But I think it's important to remember that ultimately, all of this innovation is about serving people.
Right. It's about making our lives easier.
Exactly. Making their lives easier, more convenient, more sustainable.
So it's just a tool
to
do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But with all these advancements, do we even need physical stores anymore?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. It seems like everything's moving online.
It is possible that we'll see a continued shift towards online shopping and virtual experiences.
No more crowded malls, no more lines.
Right.
Yeah, I could get on board with that.
Yeah, but I think there will always be a place for physical stores, especially for those who value that human interaction and the ability to see and touch products before they buy them.
Yeah, I still like to go to a bookstore.
I do too.
And browse,
Yeah. It's not just about buying a product. It's about the experience.
Exactly.
And I think we'll see retailers get even more creative in how they blend the online and offline worlds, creating those seamless and engaging experiences for customers.
So it's about finding that synergy.
It is.
Between the two.
Yeah, it's not about one replacing the other.
Okay.
But finding that balance.
Yeah. So the future of retail might look different.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be all digital.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
How do you think these advancements will impact, like, our cities, our infrastructure, even the global economy?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that leads us to our final deep dive into this topic.
Okay.
We're going to zoom out and look at the wider impact of these powerful forces.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, so we've been talking about demand prediction and logistics and kind of how they work, their impact on businesses, the trends that are shaping the future of all this.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of zoom out now and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like, how will all these advancements impact our cities, our infrastructure, even the global economy?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's like we've been examining these individual threads of a tapestry.
Yeah.
And now we're stepping back to appreciate the whole picture.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with our cities. How do you think these advancements in logistics could change the way we design and live in urban spaces?
Well, imagine a city where delivery trucks are routed with incredible precision.
Okay.
Minimizing traffic congestion, noise pollution.
I mean, that's a dream for anyone who's ever been stuck in rush hour.
Exactly.
Less noise, cleaner air.
And it's not just about making cities more pleasant to live in.
Yeah.
These advancements could have a significant impact on sustainability as well.
Okay.
Reducing fuel consumption, greenhouse gas emissions from transportation.
Okay, so more livable, more eco-friendly.
Yeah.
What about the infrastructure itself?
Right.
Would we need to make any changes to our roads or bridges or even our buildings?
We might see a shift towards more localized distribution hubs.
Okay.
Smaller delivery vehicles designed for navigating urban environments.
Okay.
And perhaps even the rise of autonomous delivery systems.
Like those little robots I've seen.
Exactly.
Right.
Those delivery robots or even drone deliveries. But to make these systems truly efficient and safe, we might need to adapt our infrastructure.
Okay.
Think dedicated lanes for those robots, designated landing zones for drones. Even buildings designed with package delivery in mind.
So like rethinking urban planning altogether.
Yeah, potentially.
Wow. But what about the global economy?
Right.
How would these advancements affect international trade and all that?
Well, as supply chains become more efficient and transparent, it could lead to lower costs for businesses.
Okay.
Increase competition on a global scale, and ultimately lower prices for consumers.
That sounds good to me. Do you think these advancements could even help smaller businesses compete with bigger ones?
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
That increased competition drives innovation.
Okay.
Which leads to better products and services for everyone.
But what about the people who work in logistics?
Right.
I mean, with all this talk about efficiency and automation,
Or
are we going to see people lose their jobs?
That's a valid concern. It's something we need to be mindful of. But it's important to remember that while some jobs may be automated, new jobs will also be created.
Okay.
Think about the people who will be needed to design, build, and maintain these new technologies.
Okay.
And even with increased automation, there will still be a need for human oversight.
Right.
And decision-making, especially in areas that require critical thinking and problem-solving.
Makes sense. So it's not about replacing humans altogether.
Right.
It's about finding that balance.
Yes. And it's an ongoing conversation we need to have as these technologies continue to evolve.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from the nitty-gritty details of, demand prediction to the bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's clear this is a field that is changing rapidly.
It is.
And has some really far-reaching implications.
It's a fascinating field to follow.
It is.
Full of innovation and opportunities.
What advice would you give to our listeners who are kind of interested in this and want to keep learning?
I would say stay curious and stay informed. There are so many resources available, from industry publications to online forums where you can learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And as consumers, pay attention to how these technologies are shaping your own experiences, from how you shop to how quickly your deliveries arrive.
That's great advice. So this isn't just about business and technology.
It's not.
It's about how we as a society choose to use these tools to, hopefully create a better future.
I agree.
So keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep those deliveries rolling.
Absolutely. Until next time.